Alright guys, so I can reduce this IOR to actually, if it's at 0, it's going to be completely metallic. You can see that it's completely over it even with the texture on. We need to definitely give it some amount of IOR so that the reflection actually starts to work. Otherwise, the IOR takes over completely. So remember, never keep it at 0 with reflection full, because if it's at 0 with reflection full, it will become completely reflective. And if it is 0 like this, it will only adjust a little bit. So I would suggest you always give a little bit IOR and then only kind of control the reflection, so it is moderated, okay? But of course it completely depends on how you want to control and what kind of a material are you trying to create. The next thing over here is the fog color. Now, just as IOR and reflection kind of work with each other, if I have refraction turned on, that's only when I will actually be able to use the fog color. Now if I reduce the fog color, you can actually see it becoming very dark, and if I reduce it completely, actually it becoming extremely dark, and if I increase the refraction completely, it becomes black, because black has taken over. And when black color takes over when black color takes over in the fog, it becomes completely black if the refraction is full. So let's say the refraction is 0, you're going to have just something like this, and the fog color is not even going to affect this material whatsoever. But only when we have slight refraction on, that means we are trying to make the material a little transparent, something like this, is when the fog color is going to work. And as you can see, we have white, and if I reduce this, we have black. Black will make it solid, and white will actually increase the transparency. So instead of seeing this as colors, see this more as black would want to make it solid and white would actually want to increase the transparency. But of course, if I select the color over here, and let's say I change it to this blue color, you can actually see that blue tinge coming over here. So if I have this, you can actually see the blue tinge has taken over the complete refraction over here. And the more I increase the refraction, you can see it goes towards this blue and it goes towards black always. So that's basically how the fog color and the refraction are completely integrated with each other. So when the refraction is more, then only will the fog color be visible, and if the fog color is black, then the refraction is completely overtaken and it becomes a complete solid. The transparency completely goes away. So I think over here I'm just going to keep it at white, and I'm going to just reduce that refraction, because it's a wood in the end of the day, that it's definitely not going to be transparent. Then we have glossiness, and you can see glossiness is already full. If I reduce this completely, you can see the reflection also goes away. So let me increase the reflection completely. Now I'll increase the IOR slightly, okay? And you can see the more I increase the IOR and the reflection is completely full, yet it is not looking nice, it is not giving that good look, that good kind of a metallic look to it. And why is that happening is because the glossiness is 0. Reflection needs glossiness to work. The same way glossiness would need reflection to work. So let's say if reflection is completely 0, alright, and glossiness we increase it completely. No, nothing happens at all, okay? But the minute I increase the reflection a little bit, you can see it comes over here. The same way, if the glossiness is, let's say, completely 0, the reflection is completely useless. It is not going to work in the way it should. So always remember, glossiness needs to be there for reflection to function, and we need a little bit of IOR to actually have the the look what we are trying to generate. So you can adjust the glossiness, then adjust the reflection accordingly to kind of get the look that you are looking for. And once you're satisfied with that look, then you can actually move ahead. Alright, so that's basically how we are going to look at the reflection, the glossiness and everything. Now the next thing over here is the bump. Now bump is actual texture within the particular material. So as you guys can see, this is just going to have these simple wooden look over here. let's say I increase the, I just keep this at 1 meter. So we have something which looks like this. Now over here you can see the bump does not have a switch on over here. The more I increase the bump, you can see that there is really no change in this at all. What happens is when I switch this on, and now when I increase the bump, you will see that there is still not that much or is really negligible change in the whole thing. But the minute I click on this, I can actually add a map. So what VRay has done is it's given us multiple different textures to add as maps, okay? But we can always just click on bitmap and kind of add that same map over here. And I can go back and you can see that map has now come out over here. And now when I increase this, you can actually see that there is this 3D texture coming out in this. The wood is actually now kind of springing out in it. And I find this to be a very good way. VRay has improved its interface so much that even if you just use a regular texture, it kind of picks out the whole 3D look in it and brings that out when you add it in the bump. So you'll actually have something really good, a 3D texture being seen in this if you add the map. So that's basically how the bump works. Now the more and more we get into detail of different things, you'll understand how the bump works in various different ways. Then guys, we have the opacity. Now if I reduce the opacity, it becomes completely, it just vanishes because now there's zero opacity, but the more you increase it, this opacity stays. So what is the difference between this and what is the difference between the refraction? So let's say I reduce the opacity to here and we have this fog color. If I adjust the fog color, it's somewhat similar to the refraction altogether. So let me increase this refraction now over here and let me just increase the opacity completely. Now the more I increase the refraction, you can actually see it kind of looks something like this. Now let me increase it to 100%, and when I increase it 100%, it looks like a glass. Okay, so this is the difference. It looks like the object is still there. It does not have its texture, and it does not have its it does not have the look of any of the materials. But when we talk about opacity, opacity is a totality of the material whole. So if I reduce the opacity, it just disappears because now it is completely opaque. It is invisible. That's what I would like to put it as, invisible. So that's basically what the opacity does. Now, as you can see, we have completely created this material the way we want it to look. Something like this looks actually quite nice, but we'll see it in the render. Now when I come to this, you can see this has to be metal. Now of course I can create a metal, and I'm sure you guys will also be able to start creating metal. Very simple. Increase the reflection a little bit over here, just like that. Make sure the gloss is full. You can increase the IOR a little bit more, and that's how you're basically getting the the metal look. Now if you want to use this texture, then definitely leave it on. Otherwise you can simply switch this off and you can actually control whether you want it to be like a light metal or a dark metal. You can actually see how it looks automatically like a metal. But guys, here is where I'm going to show you where generic comes to play. Generic is basically you creating your own material from scratch, the same way we did it for this. But when we talk about selecting something else from here, let's say I want to make this into a metal, right? Let me just select metal. Automatically we kind of get into a metal created already by VRay with its pre-settings done. You can see that. And only the settings which are required for a metal will be here. So you can see refraction is not here, opacity is not here. Things which are useless and which will not be there in a metal texture will not be seen over here. So that's why I also like the quick settings, because you can simply just select what you want from here and kind of just get into it and sort it all out over here. Now let's say I go for fabric, so we get something over here like this. Here you can see we don't really have fabric, but of course I can select plastic, so it will look something like this. I can select paint, it is going to look something like this. I can select glass, it is going to look something like this. I can select liquid, it will look something like this. I can select car paint, it will look something like this. Well, right now, car paint will look something like this. Then we've got metal, which will look something like this. Let's go back to generic. But now you can see the texture has been taken away. All right. So I'm just going to, do a couple of undos to actually bring the texture back. So I will show you how we can actually adjust this whole new texture to something completely different for us. Okay, so here let me just quickly go ahead and select bitmap, and we can select, let's say, the texture, this one, and I can go back, and you can see reflection is full because we set it as a metal, so we need to reduce that.